Hola, bienvenidos estudiantes. Welcome students. Thank you all for joining us today. I am Ingrid Kemchand. I am Curriculum Coordinator for Modern Languages with the Curriculum Planning and Development Division of the Ministry of Education. Our Ministry of Education recognizes the need to continue education for all our nation's children, even in these challenging times. To this end, we have worked with teacher volunteers to bring you a series of Spanish lessons, televised, so that your schooling can continue in your homes. Today, the Modern Languages Unit of the Curriculum Planning and Development Division, together with our teacher volunteers, are bringing you a series for the lower secondary school. However, primary school students, as well as those of the upper secondary studying Spanish, may also benefit from these lessons. On your behalf, allow me to thank all stakeholders who have made this venture possible, significantly NALIS and TTT. So we're about to get into it. Get ready now. Presten atención y aprovechense.
Bienvenidos a la clase de español. Yo soy Señorita Pedro of Mucurapo West Secondary School, and I am here to do a very useful lesson in Spanish with you today. Today, we're going to learn how to express ownership in Espanol. Have you ever come across something and wondered who it belonged to? I know I have. Well, at the end of today's lesson, you'll be able to ask about ownership in Spanish, as well as to express ownership in Spanish. Let's begin. We can start by looking at the way we ask about ownership in English. And the most common question to ask about ownership in English is, whose is it? So for example, if I would like to know who the pencil belongs to, I ask, whose is it? Whose pencil is it? Also in English, we use what we call the apostrophe S to indicate ownership. So for example, if the book belongs to Juan, we say Juan's book. This is my friend Maria. This is Maria's pencil. The pencil belongs to her. One of the most common ways to ask about ownership in Spanish is de quién es. This means whose is it? Literally, it means of whom is it? In Spanish, we use the preposition de, which means of, to indicate the ownership of something. For instance, to ask about the ownership of a book, we say, ¿de quién es el libro? Whose book is it? In Spanish, there is no apostrophe S. We must remember that. So for example, if the book belongs to Juan, we say el libro de Juan. Now look at this beautiful dress. I want to know whose dress this is. I simply ask, ¿de quién es el vestido? And if somebody tells me that the dress belongs to Maria, they say, es el vestido de María. Literally, it is the dress of Maria. The most common way to ask about the ownership of more than one thing in Spanish is de quién son. This means whose are they? Literally, of whom are they? So, also in Spanish, when we are referring to the ownership of more than one thing, we must use the preposition de, also the verb son, which means are, to indicate that we are asking about more than one thing. So if I would like to ask about the ownership of some books, I will ask, ¿de quién son los libros? See, I'm using the word de as well as the verb son to indicate that I'm inquiring about more than one books. Let's look at some examples. Look at these dresses. I want to ask, whose dresses are they? I say, ¿de quién son los vestidos? If someone tells me that the dresses belong to Isabella, literally, they are the dresses of Isabella. Vamos a repasar. Let's review what we've done so far. So, we've learned that to ask the question, whose is it, in Spanish, we ask, ¿de quién es? Repitan, ¿de quién es? Muy bien. We also learned that to ask to whom something belongs, we ask, ¿de quién es? Followed by the object. So, for example, whose house is it? ¿De quién es la casa? Very important, and we must remember this. There is no apostrophe S in Spanish. We learned also that to state that something belongs to someone, we use the word de. So, for example, it is Maria's, es de María. It is Maria's dress, es el vestido de María. We also learned to ask the question, whose are they? We ask, ¿de quién son? Repitan, por favor. ¿De quién son? Excelente. To ask about whom some things belong, we ask, ¿de quién son? Followed by the objects that we are trying to find out about. So, for example, if I would like to ask, whose houses are they? I simply ask, ¿de quién son las casas? Here we use the word de and also the verb son, which means are, to indicate that we are trying to find out about the ownership of more than one thing. Additionally, to state that some things belong to someone, we use de and the verb son, which means are. For example, they are Isabella's, son de Isabella. They are Isabella's dresses, son los vestidos de Isabella. Is there another way to express ownership in Spanish? The answer is yes. We can also express ownership in Spanish by using possessive adjectives. Possessive adjectives, or as we call them in Espanol, los adjetivos posesivos, let's have a look at what they are. Now in English, these are my, your, his, her, its, our, and their. Possessive adjectives are used with a noun to show that something or someone belongs to another. So for example, my pen or pens, my book or books, his or her pencil or pencils, our chair or chairs, their desk or desks. Similarly, in Spanish, there are words for each of these adjectives. Let's have a look at what they are. On the left, we see the possessive adjectives as we know them in English. On the right, we see the possessive adjectives in Spanish. So, for example, if I want to say my for a noun that is singular, I say me. For plural nouns, for the word my, I say mis. To say your for singular nouns, we use tú. To say your for plural nouns, we say tus. To say his, her, or its, we use su. Or for plural nouns, sus. Now, let's look at the words for are. This one is a little bit different. For masculine singular nouns, for the word are, we say nuestro. For feminine singular nouns, we say nuestra. For nouns that are masculine and plural, we say nuestros. And for nouns that are feminine and plural, we say nuestras. Also, to say there, for nouns that are singular, we use su. And for nouns that are plural, we use sus. Don't worry, we'll come back to this table in a bit. Let's look at the possessive adjectives me, tu, and su. These do not have masculine and feminine forms and remain the same regardless of the gender of the nouns that they are describing. Nuestro, nuestra, nuestros, and nuestras are not like the other possessive adjectives. They must change according to the number and the gender of the nouns that they are describing. Let's have a look again at the words for are. Nuestro, masculine singular nouns. Nuestra, used for feminine singular nouns. Nuestros, used for masculine plural nouns. And nuestras, used for feminine plural nouns. We've been doing great so far. I think it's time for a short break. Nos tomamos una pausa, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. We've been doing a great job at learning how to ask about ownership in Spanish. Vamos a continuar. Let's continue, shall we? We've looked at the possessive adjectives. Now we are going to learn how we use them in Spanish. Here again is the table with the possessive adjectives as they exist in Spanish and English. We must remember that possessive adjectives indicate to whom things belong. The words me, tu, su, and nuestro correspond to the possessive adjectives for my, your, his, her, or, and their. Now, possessive adjectives agree with what they are describing, not with the person to whom the things belong. So, if Pablo eats his apple, we say Pablo come su manzana. If Bianca eats her apple, we say Bianca come su manzana. Notice, it doesn't matter who the apple belongs to, we still use su, since in both scenarios we are referring to a singular noun. Now, if we are describing more than one thing, as in the first example, Pablo come sus manzanas. Pablo eats his apples. Here, he's eating more than one apples. In this case, it's a plural noun. Therefore, we use sus. Also, if Bianca eats her apples, we say Bianca come sus manzanas. As with other adjectives in Spanish, possessive adjectives must agree with the noun that they are describing. So my book will be mi libro. My books will be mis libros. Notice how the possessive adjective becomes plural when I'm describing more than one thing. Look at this lovely bed. If I am to say that this is my bed, I will say, es mi cama, because I'm only seeing one bed in the picture. Therefore, I use a singular possessive adjective. Look at this happy couple. These are somebody's grandparents. If I am to say that these are your grandparents, I will say, son tus abuelos. Here I use a plural possessive adjective since I am referring to more than one grandparent. Let's do some more examples. My apple, mi manzana. Your shoes, tus zapatos. His or her book, su libro. Again, as with the second example, we are referring to more than one shoe. So we use a plural possessive adjective to indicate ownership. It's very, very important to note that possessive adjectives come before the noun that they modify. So if I'm saying it is your bed, I say es tu cama. The possessive adjective comes before the noun at all times. Also, possessive adjectives are not usually used when referring to parts of the body. The definite article el, la, los, or las is used instead. So for example, if I am referring to my hand, I will say la mano. If I'm referring to your head, I will say la cabeza. Now, let's review. I want to make sure that you're understanding what we are doing so far. Possessive adjectives must agree with the nouns that they modify. Mi, tu, and su do not have masculine and feminine forms. The possessive adjective nuestro has 4 forms, and we remember that they are nuestro, nuestra, nuestros, and nuestras. Nuestro agrees with the noun it describes in number and gender. Possessive adjectives must come before the nouns that they modify. Also, when referring to parts of the body, we must use the definite article el, la, los, or las to express possession. Let's take a closer look at some possessive adjectives. Mi and mis. Both possessive adjectives mean my. Mi is used for all singular nouns, and mis is used for all plural nouns. It doesn't matter what the gender of the noun or noun is. For example, mi bolígrafo, mis bolígrafos. My pen and my pens. Mi casa, my house. Mis casas, my houses. Tu and tus. Both possessive adjectives mean your. Tu is used for singular nouns, and tus is used for plural nouns, regardless of the gender of the nouns. Tu bolígrafo, your pen. Tus bolígrafos, your pens. Tu casa, your house. Tus casas, your houses. Su and sus. Both possessive adjectives here can mean his, her, or their. Su is used for all singular nouns, and sus is used for all plural nouns. Again, regardless of the gender. Su bolígrafo, his or her or their pen. Sus bolígrafos, his or her or their pens. Su casa, his or her or their house. Sus casas, his, her, or their houses. Vamos a repasar. I want to see what you've learned and remembered so far. We're going to do that with an activity. Let's begin. Question. Does Spanish have an apostrophe S like English to show possession? Think carefully. If you said no, good job. We do not have an apostrophe S in Espanol. Next question. How would you ask, whose is it in Spanish? Sí, we ask de quién es. How would you ask, whose pencil is it in Espanol? Using the noun el lápiz. Claro. We ask, ¿de quién es el lápiz? Now, how would you say my books in Spanish? Look at the options and tell me what you think. If you said mis libros, you are correct. We use a plural possessive adjective since we're referring to a plural noun, los libros. Now, how would you say her eyes in Spanish? Think carefully. I want you to get this one right. Excelente. The answer is los ojos. Remember, when referring to the possession of body parts, we use the definite articles and not possessive adjectives. How would you say our pens? Look at the options. I'll give you some time and you'll tell me what you think is the correct answer. If you said nuestras plumas, you are correct. Las plumas is a plural feminine noun. Therefore, it must take a feminine plural possessive adjective. And we have nuestras plumas. Now, which of the following is correct? If I want to say their bed. Look at the options. Tell me what you think. See, the answer is su cama. I'm only referring to one bed, a singular noun, so I must use a singular possessive adjective. Su cama. Now, which of the following is correct if I want to ask, whose beds are they? Am I referring to a singular noun or am I referring to a plural noun? What do you think is the correct answer? Sí, ¿de quién son las camas? I use the verb son since I'm referring to more than one bed. Muy bien, good job. Give yourselves a round of applause. You're doing so great today. Let's have a look at what we've just learned. Today, we've learned to ask about ownership in Spanish. We've also learned how to express ownership in Spanish for singular and plural things. Be sure to visit the School Learning Management System on the Ministry of Education's website at learn.moe.gov.tt to see this lesson and much more. I had so much fun learning with you today. Stay tuned for part 2 of this lesson as we learn more about asking about and expressing ownership. Ciao!
Que chévere, wasn't that great? I'm glad you had such a good time. Thanks to our presentation team for making this activity both educational and enjoyable. Now you must do your part to continue to keep your mind constructively engaged. Read as much as you can, exercise daily, and work with your textbooks as frequently as possible. And be sure to log on to the Ministry of Education's School Learning Management System for more fun activities just like these. Join us again soon. Hasta pronto.